dropping a new album. Damn. Rihanna's pregnant, ASAP's baby. Kanye's talking that shit again. At least certified lover boys platinum.
What's happening? What's going on? Part of my presence YouTube channel. If you have been on the internet, been on social media, if you are a connoisseur, a purveyor, and a lover of hip hop, then you are fully aware that Drake dropped his most recent album, For All My Dogs. And if you're aware of that, then you're also aware that when Drake drops a project, it comes with a lot of praise, a lot of dick riding from the fans, but it also comes with a lot of criticism as well too. And this new album is no exception. Now, Drake's been on a run for quite some time. I believe he came out in 2005. He's been able to stay relevant and on the top of the charts and breaking so many different records, whether it's streaming records, album sales, ticket sales for concerts, #1 chart topping hits. He has been on a hot streak ever since he came out the gate. And for someone like him to be in the game for that long as he has, because now we're in 2023 and people still talk about him, he still brings people to stadiums and fill up seats. He is an artist that should be revered and should be celebrated. However, when you're putting out mid projects as he had in the past 3 years or 3 or 4 years, whether it comes to Certified Lover Boy or whether it comes to the EDM project, Honestly Nevermind, you can see where Drake has been hitting a peak and he seems to be on a downtrend. And when you peak and you start downtrending, you start to hear the grumblings, you start to hear people change their tone and how they greet you and how they sing their praise of you. And if you're someone like Drake who's been coddled in this industry for quite some time, it starts to weigh on you and it starts to change your perception of yourself. And that could be a threatening thing, especially if you're someone that's as insecure as Drake is. And that's not something that's a speculation or an assumption. That's almost a fact based on everything that we've seen about Drake thus far in his career. But the one thing about this is that it came to a head when about 2 weeks ago, he attacked Charlemagne the God. I'm not sure why he did it, but he did it in a public fashion. He made a post on his IG page and he went in on Charlemagne with a few paragraphs. And I found that it was kind of odd that Drake, being as busy as he is, right? Too busy where he can't write his own lyrics, too busy to the point where he has so many things going on in his life. He has his record label, he has his own albums that he's putting out, he has features he has to do for other artists. He's on tour currently. He is a father. He has a clothing line that he has to deal with as well too. He has many things that he's dealing with. So for him, who he perceives himself as a winner, to take the time to attack someone who he considers a loser or someone that's irrelevant, I found it kind of odd. But boy, was I not ready for what was going to happen on October 7th when Drake decided to attack none other than Joe Budden for Joe's critique on his album. So first I want to play Joe's critique or part of it in regards to Drake's album For All My Dogs.
Yo, dog, this is like Yachty rapping. This is like he rapping for the children. And that's my, yo, dog, I had to look up how old this was when I finished listening to the album. You are 36. Your birthday is in 20 days. I Googled that too. You only 37 years old. Get the away from some of these younger niggas and stop these 25-year-olds. I'm listening to the album. Yo, you're a 37-year-old billionaire. I get it that you appeal to the world. Loving about Cole, like my shit is happening in reverse. Like with Cole, he used to rap about kid shit. I'm a grown ass, like real Jersey City. I want to hear how you lost your fucking virginity. And then he started to grow up. And then the rapping sounded like an adult rapping. I'm want to hear adult Drake rapping for adult people.
So one thing I will say is that Joe Budden is kind of abrasive, especially the way how he speaks and he addresses certain things. So that is to be noted. However, what Joe said has some truth to it because a lot of times, a lot of the critique about Drake's music is the fact that it doesn't seem to have grown since he first came out. He seems to be on the same bullshit. He keeps on having issues with girls that he's dating or that he's having relations with. They never treat him right. And Joe made a good point. I want to see you hang around women who are mature, women who are your age, because Drake is 37 or will be 37 in a couple of weeks. So why are you not rapping about women who actually have something of value, women who conduct themselves properly, women who know how to treat men? Or how about you discuss mature things like what you're really dealing with in life, as opposed to, taking side shots and he doing underhanded things, attacking Rihanna and attacking her, childbirth and attacking A$AP Rocky and making all these snide remarks. What's the point of doing all those things when you're a grown-ass man? Let's hear some growth. Let's hear some music about you being a father and tackling fatherhood for the first time. Let's hear music about that, since you're so open when it comes to telling and spilling all of the business of other people. Why don't you spill some of the business about yourself and be open and be transparent about who you really are in your music? Kendrick's done it. J. Cole has done it. Your contemporaries have done it. Why can't you? And to me, that has always been the limitation of Drake. That has always been my personal critique of Drake, is the fact that for as powerful as Drake is, for as much how he touts himself as the best, for how he talks about himself being a boss, he seems to approach the game and his music like he's a worker. Like he can't make music that transcends and creates trends. He hops on trends. He follows other artists and gets on their wave in order to prolong his career. When you have people like J. Cole who bucks the trend, when you have people like Kendrick Lamar who doesn't put out albums every year and he creates his own vibe, he creates his own narrative, and he puts out his own music and his own art, and it stands on its own. Whereas Drake needs to hold on to people like J. Cole, for one of them. He has to hold on to people like Kodak Black. He has to hold on to Lil Baby. He has to hold on to the Migos. He has to hold on to Sexy Red. He has to hold on to Nicki Minaj. Like, it seems like Drake has a whole 21 Savage. I forgot about him. It's almost like Drake has to, Future's another one as well too. It's almost like Drake has to hold on to other artists in order for him to remain relevant. And that is not a characteristic of someone who is strong, someone who's a GOAT, someone who's a real artist, because a real artist can stand on their own. And like we said, we've seen that with J. Cole, we've seen that with Kendrick, we've seen that with Kanye West. We've also seen that with Jay-Z as well too. They create their own sounds, they create their own lane, and they're successful because they blaze a trail for themselves. Whereas Drake seems to be operating like a worker. He does music with all of these no-name artists that no one knows, and I'm sure he doesn't know either. And he also seems to be putting out music that is in the vein of these new rappers that he's actually following. Instead of those new rappers coming to his standard, he's going to theirs. And while that may be a sign or a tactic of, staying relevant in the music business, and then that might work as far as numbers, but it doesn't work for creating the best art. And that's where Drake falls short. And that's pretty much all Joe Budden was saying. And throughout all of the critiques that Joe gave, he also gave Drake props. He's been giving Drake props for years now on this podcast. To me, it's almost cringy how much Joe Budden has actually praised Drake in all of his ventures. But for whatever reason, Drake doesn't seem to acknowledge any of that. And as soon as he hears one little bar from Joe Budden that is, a critique and that's maybe considered as negative, he flies off the handle. So I want to read you what Drake has written in regards to response to this. So DJ Academics actually put out a post on IG that showed Joe Budden critique Drake's album and made that comment. And Drake left a comment in that section and he added Joe Budden. He said, "You have failed at music. You left it behind to do what you're doing in this clip because this is what actually pays your bills. For any artist watching this, just remember you are watching a failure give their opinion on his idea of a recipe for success. A quitter gave their opinion on how to to achieve longevity. You switch careers because the things that pop into your brain had you broke, living check to check, and the raps you write had 450 men showing up at your shows in dusty Anichi jeans. Now, I'm not sure why he's hating on Anichi jeans. Anichi jeans is foundation. They're a black clothing line, a black hip-hop clothing line on the same pedigree as Karl Kani, as Fubu, as Fat Farm, so on and so forth. So he needs to show more respect to Anichi jeans. They're a classic in the 90s, and you can tell by Drake's reference to this that Drake really hated the 90s and the 90s rappers. That's what I get from this. But as I continue, it says here that these guys will show up in Anichi jeans and screw their faces to Me Music 29 and pretend you are the GOAT. Please, to any artist that's doing what they feel is right, don't let these opinions affect your mindset after the fact. This guy is a poster child for frustration and surrendering. You retired and we never hung up your jersey. We don't even remember your number. We know you for doing this. You withdrew from rap not because you accomplished all that you need to. It's because what you were doing wasn't working for you. I never want anyone in this generation to think that the whole everybody's entitled to their own opinion is a real thing. This is a man projecting his own self-hate and the fact that I did and continue to do everything he wanted to do for himself. If we need it put in simpler terms, I own a 767. He owns a modest house in the 973 and flies first class on special occasions. Now, let's be honest here. This is a lot that Drake wrote. And to do this publicly and to do this directly at Joe Budden and to go in on him, this is pretty much a soliloquy. And you could tell that Drake was pressed about this. And Drake took the time in between his concerts, because he actually has 2 concerts back-to-back in Toronto, and he put this out. It's clear that Joe's critique affected him. And this is what people have been saying online. Some people, of course, are going to ride on Joe Budden because people love to hate Joe Budden. It's easy to hate on Joe Budden. But some people see through it and they're saying, why is Drake so pressed that he writes such a long sentence for Joe? And all I could say is this: regardless of who you think is right in this conversation, one thing's for sure is that if you care about somebody, if you care about someone's opinion, you are going to respond and you're going to talk in a certain way because you're trying to convince them that you're better than them. And that's what I got from this comment that Drake left, because Joe Budden just responded, look, Mother Nature or Father Time always wins, and you're going to find out you're going to grow up sooner or later. He just left a simple 1 or 5 word sentence, and he left it at that. He didn't even go back and forth with Drake. And all I can say is this: from a guy who is old as well too, from a guy who's mature, from a guy who has kids, all I can say is that Drake is someone who you'd think at 37 years old that he would have more topics to discuss, or being that he's been in the rap game for so long, that he would have discussed or touched on so many different topics in his career. But really, he hasn't. He has been someone who's tackled only the subject matter of women and seeking for validation from others and success and what it means and how he's a player and he likes to play with women and stay non-committal. That has been Drake's go-to for all of his albums, for all of his songs. He has yet to make a song about conscious issues. He has yet to make a song of dealing with the societal injustices. He has yet to make a song that is relatable to the common person. You'd think that Drake would do that next, considering he's running out of things to talk about. But for whatever reason, he still talks about the exact same thing over and over and over again, and people are fed up about it, and that is the problem. It's not that people don't like Drake, not that people are saying that Drake is not a good artist, that he's not a good creator. It's the fact that we've heard this before so much times, and there's only so many ways that you could talk about girls doing you wrong and girls mistreating you. There's only so many ways you could say that, and as you get older, you're almost 40 years old, you gotta understand that if girls are treating you wrong and the girls can't understand, your value, then maybe you should deal with better girls or maybe you should deal with women. And that is really the critique of all of this. I wonder how you feel about this. If you feel that Drake is right, if you feel that Drake went overboard, or do you feel that Joe Budden is right, or do you feel that Joe Budden went overboard? Here's one thing I will say. It's interesting how people, they always ignore the compliments, they always ignore the well wishes, they always ignore the positive things that people say about them. But the one time you say something negative, the one time you may say something that is honest, that's a critique to be constructive, they lash out, they hate, they attack, they go for the kill, they go overboard, and they take off someone's head. And that's what we've seen here. And that's a result of someone who's been coddled in the industry, someone who pretty much has been able to do whatever he wants in the industry. But then again, I question that. Does Drake do whatever he wants? Is he able to? Because if you look at this from another standpoint, everything that I've heard from Drake and the moves that he makes, he seems to me like more of a worker for the industry than a boss. Because a boss will be able to do whatever he wants to do, to take time off, and to put music out maybe 2 years, every 2 years, like Kendrick or J. Cole, or just chill. Drake seems to be overworked. Drake seems to be someone who is working for an employer that has access to him 24/7. He can't put his phone down and rest. He seems like a type of artist that is always on standby and has to produce. And that's what I think people don't realize, that Drake is actually a grunt worker, because he is responsible for upholding the streaming numbers in the genre of hip hop. And if Drake takes a year or two off, the rap industry or the rap streaming numbers are going to drop significantly. And I think that's why Universal has him putting out so much music. And I think that's why he may be getting a sweetheart deal when it comes to streaming numbers, because he is forced to put out so much content. Drake, my advice to you, and again, I'm just a guy with an opinion. You don't have to listen to anything I have to say. But my advice to you is that if you want to go into the next step of your career, then you might need to tackle some other interesting subject matters similar to what J. Cole has done, similar to what Kendrick has done. And guess what that would be considered as? Growth. And that will match your years on this earth. That will match maybe your lifestyle, the transitions that you've made in life. You went from being, a playboy to a father. Maybe that's the right next step for you in your career. Think about that. Take some time to regroup, as he said he's going to, and then put something out that reflects the life that you currently live. And maybe people will see the growth. And maybe if you're afraid of not being relevant anymore because you're detached from a younger audience, maybe this will be the challenge to really make you the GOAT. Because if you are able to switch up your content and to be focused on more mature subject matters and still get high streaming numbers and still be able to retain the same fan base, then that would make you the GOAT. Because that means you're able to strive and you're able to try something new, and people are still willing to follow you, consume your music, consume your art, go to your shows, and still bring you praise, because you are able to draw people to wherever it is that you go, as opposed to you having to follow where everyone is. Because there's a difference. And one's a trendsetter and one's a follower. And a follower cannot be a GOAT. You let me know how you feel about this. Like, comment, subscribe, leave something in the comment section. Until next time, next move, best move, part of my presence YouTube channel. Peace.